Audio. This podcast is called Obsessed. Joseph Scrimshaw and his guest get some secrets off their chest. You should listen. It's the best.
Hello and welcome to Obsessed with Joseph Scrimshaw on Feral Audio. I am your host. I am still Joseph Scrimshaw. This week's episode is full of whimsy, pathos, big philosophical ideas, and of course, lots of uses of the word but. Because today's episode is all about comedy, with professional comedy writer Josh A. Cagan. As always, you also hear our co-producer Sarah Meyer interviewing random human beings around Los Angeles and seeing how they feel about comedy. Do they have a favorite joke? Will they say it out loud? Will it be horrific? Can they laugh on command? Are they like me? Do they sometimes laugh when they see strangers fall down? Or are they not monsters? We will find out. But before we dive deep into the personal comedy circus that lives inside Josh A. Cagan's head, I want to tell you about our portal. You can support all of the artists here on the Feral Audio Podcast Collective by shopping at Amazon through our portal. Just go to feralaudio.com, click the Support Our Artists button, and go buy anything on Amazon, and some of the money will go to supporting Feral Audio. In celebration of comedy, this is the Amazon product I'm recommending, the Loftus Rubber Chicken. Now, let's take a step back. I have a long and sordid history with rubber chickens. In one of the very first sketch comedy shows I did, I was playing a weirdo character, and I decided this weirdo character's fingers absolutely had to be covered in bandages, to be weird. At another point in the sketch, I was supposed to throw someone a rubber chicken. I picked up the chicken, and I threw it with all of my might, and it went nowhere. The chicken's neck was stuck to all of the band-aids I had placed on my weird little hand. It was ridiculous and a little disturbing, which is frankly exactly how I like my comedy. I like rubber chickens because they're big and loud and absurd, and I love big, loud, absurd comedy if there's a little bit of darkness underneath it. The best comedy to me is like the happy birthday song sung in a minor chord. Fun, but wrong. So keeping that in mind, let's take a quick look at this particular rubber chicken. There are many things that I like about it. It's large, bright yellow with hints of flaming, almost violent red. Its little beak mouth thing is open wide in shock as though it just learned Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father for the first time. The package also claims that this rubber chicken is realistic. What the fuck does that mean? It's obviously not realistic as a chicken, so are they claiming this rubber chicken looks realistically like what it is? A rubber chicken? That is some deep philosophical bullshit right there. There's also a note from Amazon that reads, in stock, but may require an extra 1 to 2 days to process. Now, I like to assume that they don't mean they need extra time to prepare the order, but rather, the people in the warehouse need an extra 1 to 2 days to emotionally process why the hell someone needs or wants a rubber chicken. As always, no close examination of an Amazon product would be complete without checking out some of the negative reviews. Here are 2 of my favorites. Terrible purchase, really hard plastic, not rubbery at all, as stated in the item description. Get your rubber chicken elsewhere and give this one a pass. Harsh stuff. Another review simply stated, does not scream. Repeat. Does not scream. Now, sadly, having purchased one of these chickens in the past, I have to agree with both of these critiques. The rubber chicken does not audibly scream. That is my new favorite sentence, by the way. The rubber chicken does not audibly scream. But the first review is also correct. This is not a rubber chicken. It's a hard plastic chicken. Back in my day, the chickens were rubbery. Depending on how you held the chicken, it would flop lifelessly or be humorously erect. You could whack your fellow comedians with it for hours on end and only cause an amusing amount of pain. But times change, comedy changes, and these days, we have rigid, unbending, rock-hard rubber chickens you could beat a heckler to death with. So if you like absurd comedy and don't want to buy a taser for self-protection, I strongly recommend purchasing the Loftus Rubber Chicken. It's very funny and you could kill someone with it. Real easy. And the chicken won't even scream while you're doing it. But If buying a rock-hard rubber chicken on Amazon isn't your thing, you can also support Obsessed Podcast by becoming a backer on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and you'll get access to our monthly patron-only bonus episodes of Obsessed. Full info on that is on patreon.com/Joseph Scrimshaw. Shows! I do shows! I've got a couple of stand-up shows coming up in Los Angeles, and the next edition of my comedy game show about pop culture with Hal Lublin, called Headcanon, that is happening on Friday, August 5th at Nerdmelt, with these special human guests: Travis McElroy, Clark Wolf, and Mark Ellis. Plus, I'll be a guest at Dragon Con Convention over Labor Day weekend, and more stuff to announce soon. For tickets and full info on all my shows, go to josephscrimshaw.com/live-shows. But for now, grab a beverage, perhaps of the adult variety. Put your headphones on your head where they belong, curl up with your relentlessly rigid rubber chicken, and enjoy Josh A. Cagan's obsession with comedy. Hello and welcome to Obsessed with me, Joseph Scrimshaw. I'm sitting in my home with an awesome person, Josh A. Cagan.
Hello, Joseph.
Thank you for coming and being here.
It is a pleasure.
And now you have no objection to me describing you as awesome, is that correct?
I'm going to let it slide. I'm fine, but that's not like a hot take on a guest on your show.
Yeah.
So unless you said it like in a 70s, like, here's my fire guest. I don't know, talk like that in the 70s.
Now, you would be upset if I said, hello, welcome to Obsessed with me, Joseph Scrimshaw. I'm sitting in my home with a fine person, Josh A. Cagan, right?
I mean, it's not the words, it's the music, right, Joseph? Like,
okay, so
if you were like, the fine Josh Cagan, or the fine stout fellow Josh Cagan.
With a fine, like you were a cigar, like a fine Josh Cagan.
You know, even I have to put myself back in my holder once in a while, Joseph.
Nice. Well, in all sincerity,
sure,
I'm drinking beer. In all sincerity, thank you for coming and doing this. You've been a guest on the podcast before.
It's true.
It is true. We agree already.
As both a guest and that one crazy reverso time that I interviewed you.
Oh, yeah. You did a bonus episode that we do for the Patreon.
I should have worn like a Bizarro t-shirt to like counter your Superman t-shirt and ask question like this.
That's going to be the next one we do.
Fantastic.
Every idea you throw out, I'm going to be like, for sure. Because I'd be happy to do it.
Yes, and I think my Bizarro cosplay would probably kick ass.
Yeah?
It's never occurred to me before.
I don't know if there are Bizarro t-shirts. I'm going to look into this.
Well, I mean, I just turn it inside out, right?
You just do it wrong. Exactly.
Me cosplay.
Right, so a Batman t-shirt is good Bizarro cosplay.
Yes, perfect.
So I asked you to do the podcast again because I wanted to talk about comedy in general.
I love jokes.
You love jokes.
Sure.
I know you love jokes. I know you have a particular relationship with comedy. I feel like there has been lots of just like real horrible things going on in the world, and I felt like doing something that would be fun and about a fun topic with a fun human being.
Here we go.
So that is why you're here.
Let us laugh into the void.
Or cry, laugh, or whatever happens. Whatever happens. It's still a podcast.
Okay.
So I want to start just by reviewing for people who maybe don't know you, those idiots who don't know you.
You're okay. You're okay, people. Joseph has been drinking.
Idiots. They're idiots.
Listen, get me out of the call 911. He's crazy.
I love that people would call 911 for a podcast. At some indeterminate time in the past, a man was being held against his will to talk about comedy.
Yes. All right. So who am I?
Yeah. So, well, you have a personal relationship with comedy, just as like a fan and somebody who absorbs comedy, but you also create comedy.
Yes. I am a screenwriter. My two produced credits are The Duff, which came out last year, and then Bandslam, which came out in 2009. Both comedies, both like kind of more on the John Hughesy side of things.
Yeah.
Except without the alcoholic racism. Probably can't use that.
Good tagline for The Duff.
But I've worked on all manners of things. I worked on the Sci-Fi Channel's The Will Wheaton Project.
Yep.
Which was my real, like, after years of, like, writing jokes for movies and stuff, that was, like, my first time writing jokes on a deadline for a TV series. which was terrifying. My old middle-aged brain was absolutely not ready for that, Jelly. I've worked on a show with Paul and Storm called Learning Town, which was probably the truest representation of my ethos as a comedy writer.
Geek and Sundry, right? Okay.
In that it was just like kind of batshit crazy. And then other things that got canceled in the first season as well. A variety of things.
So you have some like for real, hello, Hollywood credits.
Yes.
And then I also know that you do a lot of essay writing and a lot of performance of your essays, which are really, really funny.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I worked for 2 years with Alice Lee and her late lamented website, The Yearbook Office, churning out an essay a week. Again, writing to schedule is not exactly one of my strongest points. And I remember a conversation you and I had while this was happening, because I was writing those essays as I was working on The Will Wheaton Show, and something had to give. And a couple of those essays were just crazy. And I think you and I were talking about it, and I was like, I felt the need. I spend a good 50 to 70% of my life apologizing. So I think I felt the need to apologize to you because I look up to you as a comedy writer and doer. I was like, hey, this week's was nuts. And you were like, no, I kind of like it when I can actually see you like teetering on the edge as you're writing.
It was your id on the screen. It was great. It was like the bullshit version that people talk about Jack Kerouac. I'm like just typing on a roll of paper, but it's like it was that for real. It was funny.
Did you ever read On the Road?
Oh yeah.
I tried, and I'm not as bright as you. And I was like, boy, this sure does sound like a guy writing on a piece of toilet paper with some beers and a dog. Okay.
It sounds to me like a guy who is very pleased with himself rewriting what he originally wrote. Exactly. A white dude. Indeed.
Yay!
So you do all sorts of comedy.
Yeah.
And I want to dig into, I think I have a little sense of your ethos and where you come from, but I want to share it with the world or see if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Which I am often wrong
Here
and
we
like
go.
to apologize too. We're going to have an apologize off over
The
the course
last
of this
half
podcast.
hour of this will just be me and Joseph apologizing.
No, I'm sorry.
No, seriously.
No, that thing
I'm
I
sorry.
said. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that thing. So my first question in digging into the comedy mind of Josh A. Cagan, do you remember the first thing that you thought was funny, or do you have an early memory of laughing?
Yeah, I mean, my memory ain't what it used to be, but if I had to guess, there's one of two things. It's very likely that it was something on television, as my kindergarten teacher literally took me aside and read to me the Shel Silverstein poem about the boy who watched so much TV he turned into a television.
Oh, so you got a little morality lesson.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
You're going to die.
Yes,
from
you're
TV.
you're going to turn into a television. Or become a B- successful professional writer. One of the two. I talked about television a lot, and like in 4th grade, I wrote a book report on a paperback novelization of an episode of Welcome Back, Kotter.
Okay.
Like, so I watch a lot of television, I guess is what I'm saying. So here are the two. So it was either something on Sesame Street or more likely The Muppet Show.
Okay.
It was either, so like the Holy Trinity for me, I feel like is the Muppets, and then Warner Brothers cartoons, and then a little later in life, Monty Python.
Okay.
And that's kind of, if you triangulate that, you kind of get the basis of my sense of humor. I will say that a thing in real life that I remember making me laugh was my dad, who is not a funny gentleman. We would bug him like, hey, take us out. We want to go out for fast food or something like that. And he'd be like, yeah, absolutely. We're going to go to Broccoli Hut. Broccoli Hut's the best broccoli restaurant in town. They make broccoli burgers and broccoli fries and things of that nature. And we would just be like, Dad, no, but tell us again. Like, it was for him a solid bit. And then probably on the TV side of things, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season,
Okay.
fire.
Okay.
Which I to this day think is, I believe that's rabbit seasoning. There were or a duck, rabbit, duck. There were 3 in that sort of real wordplay heavy Bugs, Elmer, Daffy cartoons, and one of them took place during winter, and that's the one I can't remember. But rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, fire. That destroyed me every single time. Wrecked me to the point when I was briefly teaching theater for the Boston University summer theater program. I was directing a scene between Gwendolyn and Cecily for Importance of Being Earnest, and I was like, we're going to watch these cartoons.
I am going to implant myself on your mind. Yes.
Well, I just thought it was a solid way to kind of communicate to kids who don't necessarily understand things like timing.
Right.
And
certainly rhythm,
one-upsmanship, and
Yeah.
it's a rabbit. So it's just a rabbit running around and a duck getting shot in the face. And that's what Wilde meant. I
Yeah.
think that Wilde, if he had the opportunity, his cartoons would have been incredible.
He certainly has the same rhythm and patter of a Warner Brothers cartoon. I want to go back to Broccoli Hut for just a second.
Please.
So when your dad said, I'm going to take you to Broccoli Hut, which is that is Bizarro Superman, just opposite of true.
Yeah.
Just like solid joke. Did he then actually take you to a restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, eventually we would just go to like McDonald's or something like that. But it was more funny that we knew it was a thing to not be true, but he was saying it with real commitment to the bit.
Okay. So the deadly seriousness of course we're going to Broccoli Hut. Of course it's real.
Yeah, my dad wasn't a funny guy, is the thing. But he was dry.
Okay.
He underplayed everything to the point where you couldn't tell sometimes if he was kidding or not.
Okay.
Which is a thing I have heard about myself all of my life, certainly through theater school. Did you get this as well? If you've been earmarked as a funny person, that I feel like people will always say, well, I never know if you're kidding.
Yeah, I think sometimes when people think they're interacting with a comedian, they expect it to be as big as duck season, rabbit season. I'm gonna, throw myself around the office and twist my head around and fall down, or just be really big and loud and bombastic with the jokes.
Right.
And if you're very dry, people will not understand that you just made a joke.
Yeah, I also would peg that. I also kind of pegged it to a feeling of like, you're funny, I can't trust you.
So thus the need to apologize.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry for my dry sense of humor. Okay, so you appreciate the rhythmic, the loud and absurd, but also the dry and the really direct contrast.
The hardest my friend Dave Melito ever laughed at me when we were growing up and in high school together was we were talking about, like, I don't even remember how we got into it, but I said, you know what? I think we were talking about like how we would like to be seen by other people. And I actually said, I'd like to be seen as having like a dry sense of humor. And he just thought that was fucking hysterical. Because literally all I ever did was like shout and be the biggest, loudest jerk in the room. And I got cast in all of the parts in high school that were like the loud shouting parts. I literally played a character called Tony Lumpkin in the restoration comedy She Stoops to Conquer, who just runs around just like, I'm drunk, but I had this aspiration. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it just came from my dad. Maybe it came from wanting to be more than the thing that you've been pegged as, and as the thing that you're trying to live up to being because you've been pegged as it.
Right.
I've always been loud. I've always been broad. My first job in television was working in animation because that's sort of like the most natural language for what it is that I do.
Right. Josh can shoot this duck in the face.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Got it right on my business card. But I think there's always been a little, and I think part of that I mean, Python's a perfect example because Python can be very dry.
Yes.
And it can be Mr. Creosote. and sometimes from 1 second to the next, which is mind-blowing, and I think taught a generation of people that you can do everything in comedy at once.
Yeah, I think that's really true of a lot of British humor,
Yeah.
is that British audiences can accept either or. And in America, I think generally it's either super dry, witty, important comedy with a point,
Right.
or it's big dumb people, their butts on fire, they fall down, waka 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 waka,
Yes.
and never the twain shall meet.
Yeah. Rest his soul. That was, I always thought, the thing with Robin Williams from an acting standpoint, which was either he was like, blah, I'm Patch Adams, and I'll put a butt thing on my nose, yuck, yuck, yuck. Or it was like him staring at his shoes for an entire movie. And
Right.
again, never the twain shall meet. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the American scope has broadened over the years,
Yeah.
certainly. But we still love it when our comedian, like Jim Carrey in a role that will surprise you as a dying guy or something. Like, we want that. We want our broad, funny, ridiculous people to be broad, funny, and ridiculous, and we want our serious people to be serious.
Yeah, but yeah, I think comedy is at its best when it can have those extremes.
Absolutely.
And I think that is awesome and I have certainly heard you do both. Like, especially in your essay performances, where a lot of it will be sort of a big, loud assault of words and ideas, and then there'll be a little drive-by joke.
Sure.
That is much more in the sort of the deadpan, dry territory.
And that's, I think if we're, God help us, if we're really sitting down and talking about my process, I think honestly, there's another sort of unspoken thing, and that's music. Like, we can, like, I have plenty of comedy influences, but as far as my writing goes, I would say that the music that I grew up listening to, well, first of all, a fair amount of the comedy that I ingested as a child was in music form.
Okay.
Because I grew up listening to the Dr. Demento show religiously every Sunday night, which was like always 20% like stand-up routines here and there, and then like 80% novelty songs.
Right.
And it's funny. I feel like that after a childhood of listening to that and then being away from it for a very long time, I, and certainly you as well, we both sort of stumbled into this world where there is still comedy music.
There's a lot of comedy music. A lot of our friends do comedy music.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there is a specific rhythm to it.
Yes.
Because it's often the joke is on the end of the beat or a rhyme that you don't expect, or there's exact sort of the contrast between the insanity of comedy, of all of these strange juxtaposing big ideas, and then the literal rhythm of the music underneath holding it all together. So you think that rhythm has affected your writing?
I think it's affected my writing, and certainly, I mean, even if we're talking about Loud, Quiet, Loud, then we're talking about the Pixies, who were not a comedy band at the time, in their schlubby, middle-aged, anything for a buck version now. They're fucking hysterical. But I grew up listening to plenty of just like music that certainly you could look at, like I said, you could look at the Pixies, and that is like an A to A comparison with what you were saying about when I do an essay or something like that. And I think it all comes back to, if we're talking about novelty music or just talking about music, we are talking about jokes and then a solid, sensible, laid out structure underneath them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So it speaks to you as a writer of comedy, of you want the structure to be to support the jokes.
It's gotta, or it's just jokes.
Well, let me ask. I wanted to ask you about this anyway, and this is a great segue. What is your favorite form of comedy to deliver the kind of comedy that pleases Josh A. Cagan? So you don't like just jokes; you want structure.
Yeah.
So that would suggest toward narrative comedy, but like between, say, like stand-up or improv or sketch or a movie. It's not improv.
I think I apologize to all of my many friends.
Let me mark the apology board.
We live in Los Angeles, so 90% of the people we know are taking classes at UCB as we speak. Yes, and it's just...
Yes, but.
I think there is stuff that I appreciate about improv, but then at the end of and my friend Amy Spalding and I, who you have had on the show, she loves improv, and we will, and Hal as well, Hal Lublin. We got into a conversation about this a few months back, where on their side they're like, yes, but when it's right, it creates a thing that you are never going to see again, and that's magic. And the sort of the wishes and dreams part of me gets that, but then the real like logical part of me, such as it is like, oh, but we want to hear our favorite jokes again and again. We want to watch our favorite movies again and again. We want to seek out our favorite skit. It feels like a waste of jokes to just release a thing into the ether.
So improv to you is like you go and you have the best ice cream you've ever had, and then you go back and they're like, no, it was just that one night. Never again can you have this ice cream. And you want to be able to like go back and savor all of the nuance.
I mean, that just kind of makes me sound a little piggy more than walk here and get my ice creams in my mouth.
Well, how about if we go? What if we go to Broccoli Hut? You have the best broccoli.
I am sure there is a hipster dipster ice cream place in LA as we speak, serving broccoli ice cream.
And there is an improv troupe there fighting over the most obnoxious member now.
Broccoli ice cream is actually the name of improv troupe playing at the UCB 9th space. No, you know what? It would probably short form, like, I really love sketch, and I don't write enough of it. You and I have written some together.
Yes, we have, and it's been really fun.
And you're very, very good at it. Angela Weber, who you've worked with, she's real good at it, and that's an art form unto itself. But I think that is closest for me. Like, I grew up with Monty Python. I started watching Saturday Night Live in 1984 because that was when I was old enough to stay up late.
And you never stopped, right?
No, we watch it every week. That's our comedy home team.
That's a commitment. Okay, so sketch comedy for sure.
Yeah,
okay.
I really love that. I love and this is not the thing that SNL does per se, but I love the idea that you can have a beginning, middle, and end in a 5 to 7 minute thing, and you can work up characters, and you can get all of the lifting you need to do done.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from SNL, that comes from Python, and again, like that comes from like Sesame Street and Saturday morning cartoons, specifically Bugs Bunny. All of this stuff, it's especially with Sesame Street, especially with the Muppets, things can be as short as 30 seconds and then as long as 5 minutes, maybe.
Right. So I think there's something about that is like great sketch. On Saturday Night Live, or even like Sesame Street or Warner Brothers, is boiled down to me to like the most urgent need or want of the character. Like I just watched, somebody had posted some old thing from Sesame Street that was just Kermit and Cookie Monster, and Kermit wanted Cookie Monster to guess what was in a box, and Cookie Monster just wanted it to be a cookie. Then it wasn't a cookie. Then he was a real dick about playing Kermit's stupid game and only getting one cookie out of it. And it was just like, okay, this is great, because there are like 3 or 4 ideas in this like 3-minute thing. And it was sort of straight person, funny person. Yeah. And it was just deep needs. Kermit just needed someone to play this game with him. Cookie Monster just needed a fucking cookie.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. There's something raw and powerful about that.
Yeah, that's every acting exercise. That's every 10-minute play. That's, it's a fascinating form. And, I mean, again, I grew up listening to 2 to 3 loud, 2 to 3 minute angry pop songs. And again, so I think it's that, or it is also that I just have a devastated attention span. But, the shorter and faster things can be, the more delighted that I am. Okay. Because it's that feeling that when it's done, it's like, I love the idea of something that comes and goes. This is maybe me contradicting myself about the improv thing. The difference is that you can go back and see it again and again, but something passes by you so quickly that you're just like, I'm laughing and I'm only 40% sure why.
Right.
What the fuck did I just see?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's a great answer. I'm curious about a different form. I'm curious about stand-up. If a strange mystical force came to your home and said, "You have no choice. It's like being visited by the ghosts from Christmas Carol. I'm taking you to a comedy club. You have to do stand-up for 10 minutes." What do you think your stand-up would be about or like? How would you try to get the most joy out of it if somebody just forced you to do stand-up?
I would probably just tell a story. Well, how long do I have time to prep? The malevolent force can like hang out and watch Chopped for an hour while I get my shit together, right?
Yes, I will allow that.
Okay, well, that's kind of you and the dark forces you have access to. Yeah, I have this essay that I wrote a million years ago about how I nearly died in a hotel shower.
Yes.
And I think if I sat down with that, I could zazz that out to a 10-minute story that could double as a stand-up set if I absolutely had to. Because I'm not. I mean, you read my people can see my Twitter. I'm not great with what's in the news today. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. I'm not great. I'm not great with big issues.
Right.
I am better with. This is a thing I've thought about stand-up a lot because I don't go out to stand-up a fair amount unless you or my friends are doing it. And I think the biggest problem, besides the fact that I spent a summer working at Nick's Comedy Stop in Boston, which was like literally the worst fucking summer of my life.
It was literally called Comedy Stop.
Nick's Comedy Stop.
Like all comedy will stop when you enter.
And that's incredible. Yeah, it was actually a telegraph. Nick's doing comedy. Stop. My buddy Zach and I were hired between...
I thought you were going to stop at high.
Hi. My buddy Zach and I were hired between, I think, junior and senior year of college. We answered an ad in the paper like, we're looking to do sketch. And what they were really looking for was people to host their open mic nights and man the phone banks, giving away free tickets to people who never entered a contest to come see some comedy.
Comedy Stop.
And there were awesome things about it. I got to see Dane Cook before he became super famous. And he was like a shockingly good dude. Cool. Who was like real helpful and real supportive. I got to see Patrice O'Neill.
Oh, cool.
It was wonderful. Got to see Jonathan Katz. Like, that part was great. But then there was the part where I was just hanging out in a comedy club for like 8 hours, 12 hours a day. And it was a scene that I was not into. Right. I'm not good at the blood sport of comedy, specifically stand-up.
Yeah.
And that was a thing that came back to bite me on the ass when I was working on the Will Wheaton project. The idea that it's like, and by the way, I understand that it like comes from a place of privilege on my part because I don't have to fight anyone to the death to have a career.
Right.
But like being at the comedy club, I was just seeing guys just like fuck each other over for a nickel and an extra minute of stage time, and that was like terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's not. I come from sort of. I have a lot of like ensemble training, and I have a lot of like working with other people training, and a lot of like that sort of thing. I think that's theater school. I've never been a lone wolf type.
Yeah.
And I think comedy. It's two things. So I think comedy benefits like lone wolf types, although certainly there are exceptions. You play well with others, Joseph, certainly. But I also think that with stand-up, there's a certain amount of going up in front of an audience and saying, so I've figured this stuff out, and I'm going to not explain it to you.
I'm going to tell it like it is.
But here's my take on it.
Yeah.
Because I have taken in this information, I have processed it, and now I'm going to show my work. Whereas I've never figured out a goddamn thing in my life. All of my furniture is missing like 8 screws that I just looked at and I was like, it's standing. That's fine. Like I am not, I feel like I'm still like kind of befuddled and bemused by the world. And I don't think that's a good stand-up POV.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't want that to be true.
It's probably not, Joseph. I'm kind of a dummy.
No, you're not. You apologize for that right now. You're not a dummy.
Sorry, Cagan.
So you're not a dummy. Second beer time. We're gonna open up. It's gonna be great. Yeah. So I don't want that to be true. I think it is maybe a little bit.
That's my interpretation, and I also have weird esteem issues where I feel like I don't do well on panels either because I don't necessarily love being regarded as like, and here's expert Josh Cagan with things that he's gonna say. You know?
Right. Well, so here is, I think, a cool idea that's going around in stand-up. I think it's always been there, but I think it's got a lot of traction right now, which is tell your story, tell your perspective.
Right.
And I think especially because of social media, you kind of can't do the go-to jokes because when something happens, we've all done them. So the only way jokes are going to truly be surprising and passionate and interesting is if they're from your perspective.
Right.
So like your shower thing is from your perspective. It is a very like, and I mean this in a good way, Seinfeldian observation. I don't always like hey, I observed something. But so your shower bit is about how you almost died in the shower, but it is specifically because all of the showers in hotels have different, hard-to-figure-out setups.
Specifically Portland.
Portland in particular. I think about this now every time I take a shower at a hotel. It is one of those, you found a truth, you found it from your very specific perspective.
Right.
And then but because it's specifically from your perspective, it shares this sort of universal passion.
Yeah.
And I think the specific perspective that's from is the joke that you make about yourself that you're a dummy. And you're not a dummy, but it is this fun perspective of you feel like a dummy because I should be able to figure out a shower.
Right.
But you're not actually a dummy. Those showers are set up to be confusing death traps for all of us. So,
I only almost had to die. I remember that one cartoon where Daffy Duck, you dig? Daffy Duck rigs a piano. So when Bugs Bunny hits the last note of those endearing young charms, the piano explodes. And Bugs always gets it wrong. And Daffy can't help himself, twit that he is, runs out and is like, no, you dumb bunny, it's like this. Na, 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 na. And the audience goes fucking bananas. And this is the first time, it's the most applause Daffy's ever gotten in his life. And Bugs is like, that was amazing, Daffy. And Daffy now is dressed as an angel because he has died and he is floating up to heaven, and he says, yeah, it's a great trick, but I can only do it once. I think about that story, and I'm like, well, I guess I have to now put myself in other life or death situations in order to get the jokes. But I see what you're saying. It's like anything. It's like, knife skills or handling a gun or driving a tractor trailer or anything that could potentially hurt people. I think it's just best left to the experts.
Okay, fair enough. All I'm saying is, if I were a mystical force or had control over them, I would love to grab you up, take you to a sold out theater. People are already there. You don't have to compete with anybody, and say, you have an hour.
An hour now!
And it's an hour. It's changed to an hour.
Malevolent forces, Scrimshaw! No, it was only 10 minutes!
I will not apologize. You got your 10 minutes of shower, but then you have all sorts of other stories like that come from that same perspective.
See, that's so... I did the dreaded one-man show in college.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was called Nightmare of the Oppressor. And
was it a comedy?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was jokes and jokes and jokes. It was... but basically, the setup was that I was put on trial for all of the white man's crimes against humanity.
Okay,
Like
that's a perspective.
Like they just decided, like, it's you. Talk your way out of it.
You specifically.
Yeah, me specifically, Josh Cagan. And I did the show like I used to wear a nightshirt.
Like you were like a one-man cultural reparation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had to defend my position on, why I'm cool.
See, that is incredibly relatable and powerful.
I think about that a lot, certainly because at the time, and certainly as I was like doing the show, the concept of my own privilege, I'm pretty sure never came into it because we hadn't invented privilege in 1992. I mean, it had always existed, but it was
But then white men invented it, like everything we've invented, right?
We're so great at everything. No, but I mean, it was me trying to like hash out things without having a vocabulary for it.
Right.
And now there is a vocabulary for it.
Right.
But and that was like literally 45 minutes to an hour, and then sometimes 90 minutes of me just talking.
Was it scripted and memorized, or did you riff a lot?
Can you believe such a thing, Joseph? There was actually a time that I was actually able to memorize an hour of text. Yes, it was scripted, and then there were riffs, and we used to Zach, who was my director and a dear lifelong friend. He used to refer to the riff parts as the "Hello, my baby" segments, as in Michigan J. Frog.
Yeah,
you're like,
hello,
okay,
my baby.
you do 3 minutes of "Hello, my babies" here, but then you get back to the fucking text.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did that for a while. It feels like one-man shows and the idea of doing stand-up for me, it all feels like a youthful indiscretion.
Fair enough. Like you were just caught in a wild moment of abandon and did a 90-minute one-person show about
I experimented.
white guilt.
I experimented with talking in front of people. My mom was very worried.
Okay. So when you perform, a lot of the times it is to read one of your essays that we've been talking about. You are alone on stage with your words, your thoughts, your perspective, but you're reading. So do you just feel like the idea that I'm reading takes away all of those? It's not a youthful discretion because you can't memorize it.
Well, my memory's for shit at this point because I'm 1,000 fucking years old. But it's never anything that I go out of my way to do. People are kind and invite me to do these things. But yes, there is something about like I have a piece of paper. I have a music stand. I am going to read this. There's generally like no riffing. It is just like a reading with the occasional arched eyebrow to the audience or something. And I enjoy doing it, and it's neither fish nor flesh. Like to me, there's like, this works and people are fine with it, and I do it every once in a while. There is not a ton of like spark to it. Like it is a recitation.
Well, and that I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on that.
That's fine.
Because I think it is representative of some of the things you've been talking about. It is, to you, it's not stand-up, it's an idea, it's sketch-like, it's short, it's compact, but your performance, whether you intend it or not, is very punk rock. Because
I appreciate that. As a 44-year-old man with a gut, it's awesome to be referred to as punk rock.
It is very safe, orthopedic shoes punk rock.
It's those new Chucks that have like better arch support in them.
I've never felt more punk than when I got my new Chucks. And my wife was like, "Do you want the orthopedic?" I was like, "Nah, I can take it."
Born to be. How are they? Did you get a new pair?
I didn't get the orthopedic ones. I have the old ones. They're they're just a little brighter than my older ones.
Just
that's all.
Board strapped to my feet.
Punishment. Something I can apologize for. No, but your performance style is percussive.
Yes.
I'll
come to that.
You write a lot of words and you deliver a lot of words. And as I've been seeing you do this, you've been getting even better at, as we talk about, the rhythm of it, of translating from the page to the stage of, I know here's when to be like, I'm going to be percussive for this amount of lines, and then I'm going to take a breath and let people breathe, and then I'm back in hammering away like a Pogue song.
And I think that's My teeth are slightly better. And I think that's why on my end of things, I feel like it doesn't necessarily... it's a fun thing to do, but just hearing you describe it, and it is an important part of performing, it sounds... It's math. It's a calculated, like, figuring out the rhythm, figuring out when to be loud, figuring out when to be quiet. There's something very mathy about that.
Yeah.
That I think is not what I picture to be a great performance.
Really? I mean, because
A
I think
little.
it's structure. It's like you were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, math
Yeah.
is structure in a way.
It's
Says my 2 beers.
You're absolutely right. No, I know what great stand-up comedy is, and I know what great performance is, and I think I do okay.
Yeah, I think you do great.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, that's kind of it.
I'm done trying to get mystical forces to force you to do stand-up. I'm going to ask you one
And
other...
that's the thing. That's the other thing. If nothing else, it's like, you know what this world needs? Another middle-aged white guy with a microphone telling people what's what. Man, I know you've heard everybody else's perspectives on shit, but check out mine. I'm a 44-year-old white guy. This is what we all wanted to hear, right? Where'd everybody go?
Yeah, exactly. And you're already singing. It's in your blood. I'm going to ask you one more question here in our main segment, and it is kind of a cruel question.
Oh, I can't wait.
Unlike the very nice questions. I know how much the Muppets and the Muppet Show means to you. Makes sense with everything we've talked about with
yeah.
sketches, rhythm,
Love it.
the big and the small. Who is the funniest Muppet and why? Josh Cagan is drinking his beer contemplatively.
It's Gonzo. It's Gonzo.
It's Gonzo.
It's Gonzo because I don't think Gonzo knows that he's funny.
Right, he's just going through his Gonzo life.
Yeah. He is. It's force of nature stuff. It's what makes McKinnon so good in Ghostbusters. It's what made Harpo so great. It's what made Wacko from the Animaniacs so great.
I think it's totally lost on a lot of modern audiences, but it's what people responded to back in the day of Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Of no one had ever gone that nuts.
Yeah. And they have performers like that have their own code of ethics. They have their no, they do. And I think like all Gonzo wants to do is just be Gonzo. And like Fozzie wants to be funny and he's not.
Right.
And that is pathos. And it's been documented by both myself and literally every motherfucker I've ever met that in my heart, my Patronus is Fonzie Bear.
Okay.
Like there's many direct lines that can get it. But he is always, Fozzie's a heartbreaker more than anything else because all he wants is to be funny and to have friends. And he never quite gets it. And Ms. Piggy wants to be a star. And Kermit just wants to hold the team together. But if we're talking about all of like the classic Muppets, it's got to be Gonzo because Gonzo it's like the Tao of Pooh. He just is.
Yeah.
It's just him. And what's that line from the Muppet movie? I'm gonna go to India and become a star. And somebody's like, "Don't you mean Hollywood?" And he's like, "Yeah, if you want to do it the easy way." Now, by the way, and I'm sure this must exist online, somebody must have followed the timeline where Gonzo becomes a Bollywood star. Because that would be fucking amazing.
Absolutely. So you feel like he is the most funny to you Muppet because he is just himself and there is a power in just wanting what you want and having that be slightly off from the reality of the rest of the world around you.
You know this stuff better than I do, but I feel like my perfect comedy archetype is chaotic good.
Right. From Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So an ultimately positive message, but just a shit ton of bizarre pants flying, fire, chickens in the air, weirdness all are circling this good human core.
Let no man write my epitaph.
Do you like comedy?
I do.
What kind of comedy do you like?
The funny one.
Do you like comedy?
Absolutely.
Why do you think it's important to laugh?
Endorphins, happier, makes life easier.
Oh, it's really important to laugh because laughter sets up a certain type of vibration within your body, and all your organs and everything responds to that vibration.
Who makes you laugh the most in your life?
My sister.
Yeah, what does she do?
She gets angry really easily.
What does she do when she gets mad, though?
She just starts screaming, like,
But then you laugh at her.
yeah, and she gets angrier. She told me, like, oh, this is not a joke. Why are you laughing? I just keep laughing.
Who's somebody in your life that makes you laugh?
My wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's funny, but like she don't think she's funny. She just makes me laugh. So yeah, I think she's hilarious. So we're from New York, and we're actually celebrating our honeymoon. We're here in Los Angeles, and my wife is upset that I'm trying to catch Pokemon while we're walking down the beach side. But like I was trying to explain to her, I caught Pikachu this morning, which for me it was like the highlight of my day, and she got upset at that. But yeah.
Why are you upset about that?
Pokemon is the highlight of the honeymoon.
She knows what I mean.
Do you have a favorite joke? Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so the guy walks into this bar, and he sits down and he orders a drink, and he starts drinking, and every time he takes a sip, he opens his coat pocket and pours a little bit inside. And so he does this, and after a while he gets falling out drunk. And he stands up on the bar. He says, I can whoop any man in this bar. And this little drunk mouse pops out of his pocket and goes, and that goes for your cat too. That was it.
We're going to move on to our How Obsessed Are You questions.
Sure.
Do you think about comedy every day?
Yeah.
Right. How could you not?
Yeah.
Even if you weren't writing it, you would be like puttering around in your mind.
It also helps that the world is ridiculous. Like as my friend Nadia Osman, probably one of my favorite people on Twitter right now, says the world is literally in a toilet on fire, and you got one of two choices: you can fucking hide under your bed, or you can just go, we're all fucked. But yes, there's not a day that I don't go by that I don't look at something and go like, what's the ridiculous version of that? Okay, it's already ridiculous.
Right.
What's my version of the ridiculous version of that? Yeah, so
Yeah. And when you have a joke on Twitter that like connects when something rough is happening in the world,
right.
do you feel like you're like urinating on that toilet fire a little bit? Like helping to put it out a little bit? Or
when things get, this is not unfortunately going to be a funny answer, but when I find when things get really, really bad, I find myself retweeting people smarter and more right on than me. It depends on, I guess it depends on what the particular condition of toilet on fire.
Which toilet is on fire
yeah,
today?
Exactly. Which toilet is on fire? There's so much in the world right now that's just like, oh, this is very difficult.
Right.
This is very, which I then must like throw back to you, because you are, in your Twitter persona, I mean, certainly there's the Star Wars and the whatnot, but you are a current events joke man.
Yeah, I prefer being able to make a joke about what's going on right now.
Right, but you care about what's going on in the world, and you have a very active sense of social justice and things of that nature, and so I'll actually put the question back to you, because you do it more than I do. Do you feel like you are helping the situation, hurting the situation? Do you know what I mean? Is this a weird question?
Yeah, no. I try to never tweet if I think that it is just piling on to pile on.
Right.
I will try to tweet if I think that I have a joke that is fresh enough that it will give some people like some catharsis. Because I think jokes where people can see something in a new light releases that pressure valve and makes you able to laugh at the horrible thing. Also, there's sometimes where there are things where I feel like I should say something, I should add my voice just like to be counted. To like
Right.
have the most people speaking in support of or against of an idea as possible.
Yeah.
And then I'm just sort of obsessive because I think this is actually a negative thing probably. I don't like to just tweet like I support so and so, which is kind of an asshole thing because I should
Right.
just every once in a while just say I support so and so. But comedy is important enough to me, like it's like a language, and I just
Right.
feel like I want to try to find a way to say what I mean and say it in comedy and say it in a way that's clear that can't be misinterpreted.
Right.
So sometimes I just don't say anything or retweet people.
Yeah.
Because I can't
No,
find the right way to say it.
Because that is like, that's a razor's edge to dance on.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't have that kind of nimbility.
Yeah. But you said nimbility after 2 beers.
I sure did.
All right, next question.
Hit me.
Have you ever had a dream about comedy? Performing or writing or creating? A good dream or a stress dream?
You're gonna have to give your old buddy Josh a second here. I don't generally remember my dreams. I feel confident that I had within like the last 5 years an SNL dream where I was like kind of like in the video village and like doing it.
Oh,
And,
okay. Like you were a part of the production team?
Like I was like one of the writers around a monitor like, all right, how are we going to get this joke fixed?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I have that. There is an entirely different life path that I very occasionally think of. That's like, maybe if I had stuck, I'm sure as a professional stand-up, Joseph, you hear this an awful lot. But there's part of me that's like, well, maybe if I had stuck with stand-up and honed it, I could have gotten to a point where I could have done an SNL or something like that.
Right.
That's real drunk butt talk.
Okay.
I feel like, though, like not right now, but
Right.
just in general, like, I tell you, if I just caught that one fish, I would have been a bass master, you know, or what the fuck ever.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
But like when I was growing up, SNL was like the closest. That was like the circus. That was
Right.
like, I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna join the circus.
Right.
I literally ran away from home when I was in high school with the idea that I could just like walk into SNL
And be like, hello,
Hey,
I have the comedy.
I
Would
did
you
it.
like some?
I've got
Yeah.
some comedies for you.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that. I definitely had.
So you've had literal night dreams, and like many people, I think almost anybody who loves comedy in our era of
Yeah.
existence has had the. But what if SNL?
Yeah.
Because it's so formative for all of us.
But what's funny is I did Will's show a couple summers ago, and like halfway through, I was like, I would have died. I would have been eaten alive. Oh Jesus, this is terrible. Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, like Tina Fey's book in particular, Bossy Pants, is like the intelligence and the efficiency needed to thrive in that environment. Like, got it.
Yeah, especially if there's no cocaine.
Especially if there's no them
Like-
cocaine, them sweet cocaine days is gone.
Them sweet. But that's, you look at the old SNL and it's like, oh my God, how did they do it? Oh, they were on drugs. They were on drugs literally constantly.
All right, my next question. Would you confirm or reject a Supreme Court justice nominee based on their opinion of a comedy show that you disagreed with? If they were like, if there was a Supreme Court justice and they're like, Muppet shows sucked, would you say that person should not be on the Supreme Court?
No. I'd have to hear more of their platform. I feel like,
Okay.
like if they were like, I do not care for the Muppet Show, but I'm cool with women having dominion over their own bodies, I'd be like, fuck the
Fair
Muppet
enough.
Show.
Okay.
What are you gonna do?
Good answer.
Yeah, maybe you're maybe you're a like a DC Follies kind of person. Maybe you like those Sid and Marty Krofft puppets.
That you'd be okay with that. You'd
Yeah.
say, well, we have to take some compromises somewhere.
Exactly.
Fair enough. Would you get a comedy-related tattoo?
No. Wait.
Why so? Okay.
Wait. Well, I don't have any tattoos,
Right.
Because I am basically I am a hair clog built around a meatloaf. Like there is very little exposed flesh on my body that is tattoo ready.
Okay.
So I mean, but that's just like a practical thing. But we're talking define comedy tattoo. Like I'm gonna get like Stephen Wright on my butt, or
No, like if your back was silky smooth like a baby's bottom, would you get would you get a big old gonzo on your back?
No, but I could see myself getting a gonzo tattoo.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That would not be my first choice for a tattoo.
You'd probably go music?
No, actually, and I've talked to her about this. Molly Lewis, whom I have a podcast with, we'll plug that at the end of the show. But who we've all worked with, and who is possibly the smartest and funniest person I've ever met.
Does the theme song for this very podcast. Yes.
She's incredible. She draws, in addition to her a bajillion other talents. She is actually a really scratch cartoonist.
Yeah.
And she is the only person I have encountered who has really captured the spirit of my dog, Banjo Lewis Cagan. And I think when he goes 45 years from now, dogs live to be about 50. That's something that I have taught myself to believe. I would absolutely get a tattoo of a Molly Lewis drawing of Banjo, which I guess in its own way is comedy.
Yeah.
But that, yes. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a kind of a cartoon figure, but also, you know, rooted in real life because Banjo is a real dog.
He is, as far as I know, real.
The most awesome dog. He might be a little tiny alien in a dog suit with all of us because he's an amazing dog. Like, suspiciously amazing.
He's very dry. You want to talk about a dry sense of humor? It's that guy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, one of my favorite selfies I've ever taken is with your dog Banjo.
Oh, when you're running for president?
Yeah. Because I was like, this dog, just real friendly dog, come and sat in my lap and took a couple photos. And I was like, what if I just kind of stare off into the horizon like I was going to be president? And then I took the photo and then I looked at the photo and I was like, holy shit. The dog just matched my look exactly. He's amazing.
He's got incredible timing, and he has that same feature. By the way, I can't believe that we've gone through this whole thing and not said Mystery Science Theater once. Let's rectify that. He has the perfect, besides like Buster Keaton and Tom Servo. My dog, I think, has one of the best deadpan stares imaginable.
Absolutely.
Tom Servo gets on that list because he doesn't have a face.
Yeah, but Banjo's up there.
Yeah.
For sure. Next question. If a friend told you, hey, I just don't like comedy, would you still hang out with them?
I mean, first of all, what is that?
Yeah, no, what does that mean,
What does that
right?
mean, Joseph? Like, what is, like, if they were like, oh, I don't...
If they came to you and they're just like, I don't really like comedy movies, I don't like dramas, I don't really watch Saturday Night Live, I don't really like cartoons, and it just slowly whittled down and you had this sudden horrible realization, they don't absorb any comedy.
Are they themselves funny?
No.
Well, probably not.
Fuck them.
I mean, literally, Kayla and I, that's my wife, Kayla and I talk about this a lot, how lucky we are that everyone we know is literally fucking drop dead hysterical. Like, in our close group of friends, there's just not a dud in the bunch. No. So it would be a weird series of circumstances that would lead me to being friends with somebody who's just like, this is what I enjoy. I enjoy the television show House. Although I think he gets a little crazy sometimes. And then every night I drink Slurry.
All right, so you can't imagine a situation where you would be in such a friendship, and if you did, you would quietly and politely back out. Am I putting too many words in your mouth?
If they're a good person, it's a weird thing.
It is.
I
should just change the name of this podcast to Weird Questions with
This
Joseph
is not a
Scrimshaw.
question. I mean, yeah, but then we'd get into like, are they a good person? Do we morally line up? Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But if they're, I remember a cousin of mine and I were driving back from some kind of family engagement. And I remember cracking a joke about something, and they just stared at me, and they were like, "Why did you say it like that?" I was like, "Oh, because..." And by the way, it just might not have been a very good joke.
Right.
I'm really good at telling not very good jokes. But it was something like, it was like, my voice kind of went up, and they were just like, "Wait, why'd you say it like that?" I was like, "Oh, because I kind of thought it was funny, and so I was just putting a little zazz on it." They're like, "Yeah, okay, well, all right." Oh, you may have never heard a joke before.
And in that moment, if you could have hit a button and ejected them from a car.
100%. Boing. Yes, no,
Okay,
yeah.
that answers my question. Final question. I think you've answered this before. It's a weirdo. It's a real weirdo.
So am I.
If you couldn't write comedy without you or someone you love first being punched in the crotch, would you still write comedy?
You love this question.
I do.
You love this question.
It's never going away, probably.
Can I still just be funny on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fine. I don't want anybody to get punched. I want to get punched in the crotch. I want you to get punched in the crotch. It's like that. I'm sure people have referred to with this joke, Richard Matheson's Button, right?
No.
Never?
You're the first?
This is a great Twilight Zone episode.
Where people get punched in the crotch?
Close. There is a couple. They are down on their luck. They got almost no money. Guy shows up on their front doorstep with a red button under a glass dome. They say, "You push this button, somebody is going to die. Assuredly, somebody is going to die. It's not going to be anybody you know. You get $1 million." And then the rest of the episode is just these two people dithering over whether or not they're going to push the button. And then they push the button, and the second that they do, it's just like, "Hey, what's up?" The guy's there, gives him $1 million, and takes the button, and they're like, "Wait, where are you taking it?" And he's like, "Don't worry. The person I'm going to give it to, it's nobody you know." And they realize, like, "Oh shit, we're now going to die." So no, I would be fine never writing a joke again. I'm confident in sort of the other colors in my palette that you or me or Banjo or, God forbid, like my mom or something. Like, I don't want anybody getting punched in the crotch.
So no crotch punching. You would stop writing comedy and you would become a punk rocker.
Sure.
Anything to make the weird questions stop.
I just don't want anybody to get punched in the crotch, Joseph.
You know what? You are the first one who's just been like, "No, the line is drawn here and no farther. No crotch punches."
Well, I
which
feel
is
like
great.
this. I mean, it's like you've done other episodes of this show. Like, there are other things, like, like if wait, how did Kayla answer it? Did you ask? I forget.
I did ask her. Most people barter with this question. It's a very Twilight Zone question, which I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah.
Most people barter and they make their deals and they find a way to soften it or find a way to be okay with it.
Yeah.
I think your wife found a way to be okay with it.
Is it Josh? Yeah.
I don't think it was Josh. I'm never that nasty of, like, specifically your husband. I never do that.
Yeah.
Never that awful. All right. So can you make a noise to sum up your obsession? That is a great dry deadpan laugh of like, I'm quietly entertained inside myself. I'll revisit this. That's great. I've been rating people's obsession since you've last been on the podcast.
Okay.
Now, I think, so I give the number of 7, and then I try to give it a flavorful description. So I'll say shtick. So out of 7 shtick, I think you are 6 out of 7 shtick obsessed with comedy.
That's kind of you.
Now, why do you think that's kind?
I don't think I've ever committed to anything enough in my life to be rated a X out of X. But I also feel like I feel like a 6. That's like a solid. I feel like that's like a solid B+ obsessed.
Yeah, I'd say B+, A-. I think it is so much a part of who you are, but you still have like boundaries and stops.
Yeah, and there's also stuff that I can still kind of try to muddle through and figure out.
Yeah,
which is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't have it all figured out. Can you plug yourself? Can you tell people where they can find you on social media and any other
100%.
stuff?
I'm at Josh A. Cagan on Twitter and Instagram. I believe the yearbook office, yearbookoffice.com, that never got taken down.
No, it's still up.
So it's still up, and you can read my stuff and a lot of other great. Joseph, you contributed to that as well. And like everything you do, it was real funny.
Oh, thank you.
And you can find until Felicia goes after the servers with an axe. You can still find Learning Down on Geek and Sundry. You can find the web series John Davis Gets a Six Robot on YouTube as well. And and then my most current kind of like fun project. Well, of course, the Duff and Band Slam are both on iTunes. And then Molly Lewis and I, who we've both spoken glowingly of this past however long we've been talking, her and I have a podcast called The Peanuts Gallery, which we'll absolutely have to have you on at some point, Joseph. And what we're doing is we are discussing every Charlie Brown special chronologically.
And there are so many of them. When you started this, I looked it up on Wikipedia. Jesus Christ, there are
so
many.
Yeah. This is it's an odd goal. But the good news is that sometime this summer, we're going to do a summer special where we are tackling A Boy Named Charlie Brown, the first Peanuts movie. And it's us and special guest stars Allie Gertz.
Oh, yay.
Who's fucking hysterical.
She's great.
She is great. And that's it. That's all the things that I do.
Awesome. So here are the final questions. They don't have anything to do with the main topic, but they can if you want.
Great.
More weird questions.
Yeah.
If your life was a video game, what would the goal be? What would the player be trying to accomplish in Josh A. Cagan, the video game?
Is there a video game where you're just not trying to hurt anybody?
There is now.
If there's a video game where I could just like sort of stay out of people's way,
right? Not
bump into anything.
Make sure that a toilet is never on fire.
Yes, exactly.
Just keep it all contained. All right, cool. That's a great answer. Just avoid all obstacles. Make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Nice. If you could shoot one of these two things out of your hands, which would you choose? Lightning or soup?
Oh, I love soup, Joseph. Like, I really love soup. It's so great.
What is the temptation when it comes to lightning?
Oh, I mean, having dominion over who lives and who dies.
That sounds like fun.
Infinite power and things of that nature. This is pretty good. But is it different kinds of soup? Or would it have to be and soup?
No, I think you can choose multiple kinds of soup.
Yeah, it's soup then.
It's
Joseph.
soup then. It's totally soup, right?
It's totally soup.
If I told you you have this power, what's the first kind of soup you would eject from your hand?
Split pea. Shit's great. Every Wednesday at Cantor's. Get some. They only got it one day a week, and it is great soup. I love split pea soup, bro. It's the best.
You have endured many stupid questions without answering one like I'm an idiot. And the first one was like, pea soup, you moron.
You dick. Love it.
Idiot.
It
of course it's pea soup.
Boring old man soup on the planet, and I love it. Love it. Love that split pea,
All right.
Joe.
So this is... So this is the final question on the podcast for everyone. What is happiness?
Oh, it's my wife and my dog.
That is,
I like them a whole lot.
A great, straightforward answer.
I probably said that the last time during the TJ Hooker episode too.
Yeah, because you did TJ Hooker before.
Yeah,
so
and TJ Hooker.
If I can put words in your mouth, happiness is your wife, your dog, TJ Hooker, Gonzo,
and pea soup.
And pea soup.
Boom.
Thank you very much.
You're
That is
welcome.
our podcast.
You've been listening to Obsessed. Joseph Scrimshaw and his guest shared some stories with the rest. Rate 5 stars if you're impressed.
Hi, I'm Josh Cagan. This is my favorite thing from Mystery Science Theater 3000. They laughed when I accused my parents and I killed them. Let's see if they are laughing now.